Hello everyone. Uh, Today we will see about the interventional studies or experimental studies. So, interventional or say experimental studies. This is mostly randomized controlled trial is an example. So, interventional or experimental studies is an investigation involving intentional change in some aspect of the status of the subjects. Is called interventional studies. There is an intentional change in some aspects of the status of subjects. Introduction of preventive or therapeutic regime is an example. It's a design that could bring high quality of research that resembles controlled experiment. That is gold standard. So high quality research is expected from interventional studies because of its gold standard. It's similar to cohort study design that individuals are enrolled on the basis of their exposure and followed for outcomes of interest. So, except some single difference that is based on manipulation, all characteristics of cohort study design and experimental study design is similar. So it is similar to cohort study design. So what is the difference between cohort and experimental studies? Because of manipulation. Investigator assigns subjects to exposure and non-exposure and makes follow-up to measure for occurrence of disease. Meaning, in the case of experimental study design, the investigator has an ability to assign exposure and non-exposure and to follow for outcome of interest. But in case of other observational study design, the investigator does not assign, does not manipulate. So only it observes the natural occurrence of disease. So the difference is the manipulation or the ability to assign subject to the exposure and exposure to investigator is one of the main difference between experimental and observational studies. So key features of experimental study design or interventional study design is that an investigator manipulates the condition under study. The investigator manipulates the condition under study and always prospective. This is a key feature. This is the key characteristics of interventional study design that differentiates from other study types. So study groups in interventional studies, comparison groups in interventional study are also known as intervention group and control group. So there is intervention group here and there is control group here. These two groups are followed in the future for the outcome of interest. This is intervention group, this is control group. The intervention group receives the test of the drug. For instance, there is two groups, intervention group and control group. Intervention group means groups that takes our outcome of interest. Control group is group that does not take our outcome of interest, but take comparison group, either placebo or standard treatment or non-treatment also. So we do have two groups. This is interventional group here and control group here. They will follow for the future and they will see the outcome of interest, the effectiveness of the medication or something like that. So intervention group receives test drug, for instance preventive activities such as health education, diet, physical exercise. Maybe intervention groups are as investigator, intervention groups will make physical exercise daily, but control group will not make physical exercise daily. So this is also the two difference. So not only this education or that, but also for medication. The control group shall be offered the best known alternative or placebo activity with no known effect on the outcome variable. So based on population, interventional study can be divided into therapeutic and preventive. Therapeutic, when we say therapeutic, it is secondary prevention. Interventions are made among patients. By the way, study groups in the therapeutic studies patients. usually made in the health, since they are patients usually made in the health institution. In the institution, an example is clinical trial. So based on population, it is also divided into three types of trial: clinical trial, field trial, and community trial. We do have three types of trial. So clinical trial is an example of therapeutic trial. So this study are concerned about in the health institution with patients. So we will select patients and patients with medication. We select patients with placebo, and we will follow for the outcome of interest. Preventive is about preventive primary prevention. These interventions performed among healthy people. Study groups are healthy people. Individuals considered as study subjects. This is field trial. So field trial, for instance, an example is like vaccine trial for vaccination. For effectiveness of vaccination, we will try from the healthy people. We will select healthy individuals with who are taking vaccine, and healthy individuals who are not taking vaccine, and we will follow for effectiveness of that vaccine. So the other is so in the case of preventive, if study groups healthy individuals, it will be field trial, whereas study groups are healthy community, we will consider it as community trial. If the community are considered as study subjects, we will say community trial. For instance, in the community trial, like iron, iodine, iron fluorization, like this, done as community level. So in this case, we will consider two types of study design: therapeutic and preventive, and we will have three types of study trials: clinical trial, field trial, and community trial. The two field trial and community trial are primary prevention or preventive study, but the difference is this is study subjects are individuals. In this case, study subjects are community. So this in the therapeutic trial, the study subjects are sick individuals selected, so they will randomized into new treatment and existing treatment. So by considering blinding or double blinding, we will follow individuals. Then at the end, those individuals with new treatment, whether they have improved or not, will be compared. So they take new treatment and improved, they take new treatment and not improved. It will be expected two groups. In this case, individuals with existing treatment improved, existing treatment not improved, or individual existing treatment improved, existing treatment not improved. So we do have four types of groups: new treatment improved, new treatment not improved, existing treatment improved, existing treatment not improved. So the other main also characteristics of, in addition to always prospective and manipulation, random sampling or randomization and blinding is also another distinctive characteristics of experimental study design. So in the case of preventive trial, our population groups are healthy individuals, so they will randomized into vaccinated and non-vaccinated. So vaccinated with outcome, without outcome, not vaccinated with outcome, without outcome. So they are followed with double blinding. Double blinding means the investigator and the study subjects are not aware of which group is taking vaccine and which groups are not taking vaccine. So by observing the name healthy individuals and individual, this preventive trial is considered as field trial. This is field trial. But if it is healthy community, it will be community trial. So based on study design, interventional studies can be divided into three: uncontrolled trial, non-randomized controlled trial, randomized controlled trial. The best and most commonly used is randomized controlled trial. So In case of uncontrolled trial, no control group. Control will be past experience or history, after, before. So control will be past experience. So individuals current experience and past experience will be compared. So there is no control group, so we can say uncontrolled trial. The other is non-randomized control trial. There is control group, but allocation into either group is not randomized. So in this case there is control group. So there's two groups, treatment and control group, but the problem is randomization. This control group and treatment intervention group and control group are not assigned randomly. So non-randomized control trial. The third and the best type of design is the randomized control trial. In this case there is control group, there is also randomization. So one, there is control group, there is two group. The other, these two groups are allocated randomly by using randomization technique. So this contains two important concepts, controlling and randomization. So randomized control trial is an important and the best used or commonly used trial. So this is three types of interventional study based on the design. So experimental study design, when we say an example, clinical trial or therapeutic trial, a research activity that involves administration of test regimen to human to evaluate efficacy or safety. So there is population here, patient with diseased selected. There is manipulation here. So some individuals will be grouped into treatment group and other individuals will be so as this case patients with disease are collected here, then some of individuals are taking treatment and they consider treatment or interventional group, and others will take placebo, that means control group. So treatment group will be followed for recovery and not recovery. So how many of are recovered among treated group, how many are not recovered among those treated group. And placebo will be those individuals those individuals who took placebo will be followed for recovery and not recovery. So how many of are recovered among taking placebo and how many are not recovered among taking not placebo. So this is the best thing. So time and direction of increase in the future, always prospective. Based on trial objective, we can divide into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Phase 1, trial on small subjects, 20 up to 80 healthy volunteers, to test new drug with small dosage to determine the toxic effect. One of the purpose of phase 1 is to determine toxic effect. We will try this study from 20 up to 80 healthy volunteers. The second one is trial on small subjects, like from 20 up to 80 healthy volunteers, to test the new drug with small dosage to determine the toxic effect. So the second type of phase is the trial on small group from 100 to 200 ill volunteers to determine the therapeutic effect. So phase 2 is for the purpose of phase 2 is to determine therapeutic effect. The purpose of phase 1 is to determine toxic effect. So the phase 4 is the purpose of this trial is to reassess the effectiveness of safety, acceptability, continued use of drugs, mostly post-marketing surveillance. In phase 2, so after I passed this phase 3. In phase 3, the study on large population. This is very important. Mostly this is common, from 100 to 1000 patients, usually randomized controlled trial. This is to compare efficacy of the new treatment, whether standard treatment with standard treatment or placebo. That means in the phase 3, that drug's efficacy, the ability of cure of that drug will be determined. So mostly it is done by using randomized controlled trial and with large population. So if one drug is passing phase 3, they will provide to the community and it will be accepted by the community, will take. But phase 4 means post-marketing surveillance, after distributed through different countries and after available through patients or sold through clinics, and after that this phase 4 is made for, will be made for whether the drug has side effect or not, whether it is safe or not. So it's reassessing the effectiveness of the drug. So phase 4 means after, that means post-marketing surveillance. So first it will pass this phase 1, then pass phase 2, pass phase 3. After phase 3 it will be disseminated to the community, or it will be available for purchasing, and in phase 4, after long term, it will assess the effectiveness, safety, and side effect. So this is the 4 phases of trial. Then the steps in conducting experimental studies. First, we will identify new drug intervention or prevention, what will be done. The second, identify comparison group, maybe standard treatment or placebo. The third is define eligible population. You will make inclusion and exclusion criteria. The fourth is define outcomes and how to assess them. The fifth step is write protocol, like meta-analysis, which is its protocol is registered. Randomized study design also will be registered. So to register and to get ethical clearance, you will have to write protocol, or you should develop a protocol. The other is obtain research ethics committee approval after developing protocol. Protocol means like proposal for other studies. The other is step 7 is recruit and consent required sample of patients or subjects. So in step 7, recruitment will be made and consent will be taken from each individual. Step 8, allocation or random allocation of individuals will be made. So individuals will be randomly allocated into experimental group and control group. Experimental groups are study groups which will receive drug, whether control groups are will receive no treatment or will receive placebo. So randomization of study subjects. When we see the word randomization is needed of a need of assignment of study population into 2 or more groups by randomization. So mostly 2 groups like control and interventional group. So groups divide into intervention and control groups by randomization is very important. So to help assure that groups are similar, subjects are randomly assigned to experimental and control groups. So the other is randomization is performed to increase the likelihood of that groups will be similar in baseline characteristics. Yes, by the way, it prevents confounding factors. That means except exposure of interest, all the randomization will increase the likelihood of similarization of groups by baseline characteristics. So randomization is supposed to have the effect of distributing confounders between intervention and control groups. By the way, one of the main importance of randomization is distribution of confounding both known and unknown equally. Mostly in other method we will distribute also known confounding factors in case of matching and other, but the main purpose of randomization is it also adds unknown. So known and unknown confounders will be controlled in case of randomization. So randomization has ability to control or distribute confounding factors for known and unknown confounding factors. So this is an important aspect. So advantage of randomization is for a potential for bias in allocation to study groups is removed. It eliminates selection bias because of randomization. On average, the study groups will be comparable will be comparable. Study subjects will tend to be comparable with respect to all variables except for interventions being studied. Except for exposure being studied, all subjects, all groups will be comparable. Confounders will be equally distributed and controls the confounding effect. This is also another advantage. The other is favorable impression by those reading the published result of the trial. So great reliability or great confidence on the paper should be relayed So meaning the reader or the audience will be too much attracted for the study because of randomization, because it minimizes confounding effect or bias. The step 8 is allocation or randomization. So we have seen this. But step 9 is collect data. Collect all relevant information including the outcome. The knowledge of participant in treatment status may influence the identification or reporting of relevant events. This can be overcome by the use of placebo. By the way, if groups, for instance, if there is two groups, treatment group or intervention group and placebo group or control group, for instance, if treatment groups are understand or having knowledge about if they are taking the treatment, psychologically they will affected. So reporting bias may be reported. They will psychologically they will feel that they have cured from the disease or they feel good. But groups with controls or taking with placebo also affected. So they didn't know whether which group is have take which drug or which test. So this is overcome or this is done by placebo or blinding. So the quality of gold standard intervention studies can be done through randomization, use of placebo and double blinding. By the way, these three things are making interventional studies gold standard. So randomization, using placebo and double blinding is very important. So blinding is a means that the subject or investigator or both do not know to what group of the subject is assigned to. So they don't have knowledge to which group is they assigned. So this is known as blinding. It's masking whether the groups are in the placebo group or in the treatment group. So we do have three types of blinding, levels of blinding. The first type of blinding is it's known as single blinding. Single blinding is a blinding of only study subjects are blinded. Only study subjects blinded or masked about the treatment. It's called single blinding. But a treatment team or physicians and patients are blinded both. We can say double blinding. This is a common type of blinding. Most of randomized control trial use double blinding. So if patients, treatment team or physicians and those performing trial analysis or statistical analysis, statisticians are, if the three statisticians teams or treatment teams and patients are three groups are blinded, they can say triple blinding. So we say single, double and triple blinding because it will be based on to which group is blinded. So single, study subjects are blinded. Single blinded, we can say single blinding, physicians or treatment teams and patients are blinded, we can say double blinding, and all other groups are blinded, we can say triple blinding. The other is step 10. Step 10 is analyze the results. Analysis is similar to cohort study, except some differences. It's similar to cohort study. And finally, after analysis, you will write your paper or your manuscript, and you will disseminate the finding. You will publish and disseminate the finding. So to study or to start and to begin and end or complete the interventional or experimental study, we will follow this 10 or 11 steps of the interventional study. So now we will see advantages of interventional study. The one advantage is randomization. Randomization will minimize bias and confounding, known and unknown confounding. The other is blinding. Blinding minimizes observer bias. Randomization will minimize selection bias. And placebo could blind patients. Ability to demonstrate causal association when appropriately designed. Use of controlled conditions. Powerful technique. Interventional study is a powerful technique because of follow powerful techniques like randomization and blindings. Investigators control the level of exposure. Permits them to establish precise doses and procedures most appropriate to experiment. So this is an importance of the experimental study design. This weakness, it is generally limited by selection of participants. If there is lost follow-up, generalizability will be weak. The other is rare late side effects of intervention may not be recognized. So after dissemination, after the treatment is approved, late side effect will not be recognized or understood. This is a limitation. The other is limited applicability. Like by the way, mostly ethical concern is limit its application, because mostly there is huge ethical concern, and also in addition to ethical concern, there is so many steps which can be obligatory, which is taking informed consent from all individuals, and writing protocol is a must. This is why randomized controlled trial focus on interventions that have the potential to reduce rather than increase the risk of morbidity and mortality. For instance, if we want to test the medication, if there is high mortality in medication, it is difficult to get ethical concern because all patients should take medication. So it is difficult to separate patients with medication, patients without medication. So there is great ethical concern. The other is bias. Bias can result from different rates of compliance, withdrawal, lost follow-up between experimental and control groups, can alter the magnitude or direction of the relationship between intervention and study outcome. So this is all about the disadvantage or weakness. So the other also disadvantage of experimental is costly. It's very costly. It's costly. And the other is feasibility. Feasibility is low number of participants, which is voluntary to participate. So there is feasibility concern. There is costly. It's very expensive, and it's difficult, and it is very expensive. So these all are considered as disadvantage or weakness of experimental study design. This is all about analytic study design. So we have seen case control study design, core study design, and now we have seen experimental study design. So this is all about the designs. So in order to get the next videos and chapters, don't forget to subscribe this channel. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for watching this video. please enjoy our team or participating in our gym, or please be the family of our team by joining or by subscribing this channel. Have a nice time. Bye.